Just recently, Cooper Flagg said that he's considering staying at Duke for another season, stating his intent to win a national championship as the main reason why. This decision has driven out multiple opinions, from people thinking this would be a great move to people who are convinced staying at Duke for another year would be a career killer. To which I would reply, so is being drafted by the Washington Wizards. Just kidding. Kind of. Even Illinois coach Brad Underwood chiming in, saying how he hopes Cooper decides to stay because he's, quote, everything right about our game. But the reaction by some fans to think that staying in college for even one more year would put his NBA career at risk couldn't be further from the truth. Obviously, with the new name, image, and likeness rules allowing players to make money during their stay in the NCAA, there isn't that massive money incentive to instantly come over to the NBA. And his desire to stick it out with that Duke team to win a national championship could actually be seen as very admirable by NBA front offices. So although I do hear all of the reasons why people think this is the worst decision ever, he won't make as much money, he might risk dropping down in the draft, or just the fact that NBA teams value younger players a lot higher than the ones that have been through multiple years at the college level. But in the rest of this video, I've made a good argument against every single one of those reasons, and actually laid out a pretty good argument for why it's not only in Cooper's best interest to stay at Duke for another season, but in the best interest of the entire sport of basketball.
Showtime.
The big dog, the big guy, you know what I'm saying? 17-year-old Cooper Flagg was out there cooking.
You know what I'm saying? We ain't had no badass, cold-ass white boy like this in a long time. I'm just saying.
I just want him to enjoy where he's at now. Right. Because as we see, they are putting him there.
Obviously, as many fans know, the one-and-done college season wasn't always a thing. Before the early 2000s, it wasn't uncommon for players to spend 4 years in college before making the jump to the pros. But with Kevin Garnett and Kobe Bryant famously going from high school straight to the NBA, the league felt that they were propelling these young athletes into the pro system a little too quickly. So in 2006, there was a new rule put into the CBA that required players to at least be 19 years old and 1 year removed from high school. This new rule had the unfortunate effect of kind of making college ball irrelevant, as players now looked at the college system as just a stepping stone to bigger things. And now, almost 20 years later, the consequences of that are being felt. A major issue for the NBA as of late has been the dwindling viewership. Whether you believe it's just the players not trying, or Adam Silver killing the league as he pushes every aspect of it closer to a money-making product than an actual sports league. Well, neither of these things are an issue for college ball. These players are actually playing for something bigger, the opportunity to make it to the NBA. So the aspects of not trying from the players that are already at the highest level isn't there in college basketball. Not to mention, there is a severe lack of Kendrick Perkins and the rest of the talking heads and gimmicks that make the NBA unbearable to watch at times. And then you look at the style of play. Opposed to the AAU style of basketball that's been adopted by the NBA, the college game is much more of a team-centric hoop system, and a form of the good old-fashioned basketball that fans say they yearn for. So instead of wanting Cooper to go straight to the NBA, where fans just go to hate watch these days, we should be championing the return of college basketball. And with the name as big as Cooper's, this could be a way that relevance is brought back to NCAA ball, and therefore giving fans another way to consume the sport. Compared to the NBA, the WNBA actually requires its players to be at least 4 years removed from high school before joining the league, basically meaning that you're getting put through 4 years of college. And we all just witnessed how Caitlin Clark and her rivalry with Angel Reese was basically able to single-handedly revive women's basketball over their 4 years in college. So to expect the exact same thing from the men's side of the sport isn't out of the question. The argument against this, saying that players need to enter the league right away, is really kind of stupid when you look at it from this lens. We want players in the NBA immediately, but as mentioned, most fans inevitably just end up hating it when they actually come over. Look at Wemby. The fact that he was able to shoot from 3 is one of the things that made him such a fun prospect to watch overseas. But now that he's here in the NBA, fans are already complaining that he's taking too many threes. So instead of rushing these players through that college system, why don't fans actually just sit down and enjoy their time in college? The next argument that people usually make is that NBA money is just too tempting. But as mentioned at the start with the new NIL rules, this argument doesn't really hold the same ground. The next thing people will usually say is that you're putting yourself at a major risk for injury or dropping down in the draft by staying in college. But history doesn't reflect that whatsoever. Some of the greatest and oldest NBA players we've ever seen spent more than just 1 year in college. Guys like Tim Duncan, Vince Carter, Kareem, John Stockton, all of these guys played multiple years of college ball and went on to have long NBA careers that spanned all the way into their 40s. You could say that players like Christian Laettner or Shane Battier would have benefited from entering the league earlier to develop alongside NBA talent, but those players are always raw talents. Cooper Flagg is far from a raw talent. He's already growing into his game, so there really shouldn't be any worries that Cooper stands with talents like Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper quickly making a push-up every single mock draft. It's not exactly 100% guaranteed that Cooper is going to end up as the first overall pick. However, the draft class following this next one isn't as top-heavy as this one's turning out to be. So again, it might actually be a good move for him to wait. I know fans are excited whenever a prospect that's been as hyped as Cooper Flagg is set to come to the NBA, but in that excitement, we shouldn't ignore the journey. A lot of players these days just don't have that same passion, something that's been expressed by other NBA players. With Israel's top shooter Patrick Beverley even expressing that around 50% of NBA players don't love the game of basketball, and a part of the reason for this is probably due to how making it in the league is currently set up. First, you enter an AAU program that is going to give you the best chance to be noticed by a college program that's going to give you the best chance to be noticed by the NBA, ultimately spending every moment just focusing on the main goal of making it to the league. And often, very little of that time is being spent on the hunger to win or the disappointment in losing, both things that make athletes fall in love with their sport early on. So when we see a player that expresses their interest to stay in college and win a natty for Duke, this is the one thing that everyone around the sport should be hyping up. If he's serious about staying, there's finally a player that isn't viewing college as just another stepping stone to the league, but rather a necessary part of becoming a great player. So instead of sitting around complaining that the game isn't how it used to be, get excited that there's actually a player who might try and bring some of that old school ball experience to the modern day.